We now continue. Good morning, everybody. We're holding in the, we start the Torah portion. Today is Wednesday, the fourth reading of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh. We are holding on chapter 29, verse number 1. This is the thing the Torah continues and says, once we have now clothed, given all the clothes of the kohen and the simple kohen, the regular kohen, we have given them all the clothes that they need to wear for the service in the Beis Hamikdash. Now we have a command how to inaugurate them, the service of inauguration. And this was done only one time when they sanctify, when they established them as kohanim. The Kadeshim to sanctify them, Lechan Eli, so that they can serve Li. Lekach Pat Echad Ben Bakar, take a young bull, Be'elim Shnoim, and 2 rams, Timimim that are perfect. The Torah is getting us ready for Parshas Vayikra. We're going to have a lot of sacrificial offerings, my friends. And we started off, not the first time, besides that we mentioned, the Torah mentioned us concerning the Passover was a sacrifice. But here the Torah gives us the law of how the sacrificial offering that were done in the Beis Hamikdash. Sashi says, Lakach, there are 2 roots, Kichad, Chatzah, taking. Pat Echad, take 1 bull. Why was a bull taken? This was to atone the sin of the golden calf. So here was the first time that the Eibishter asked forgiveness to asked that the Yidden bring forgiveness for the golden calf, and self-understood that Aaron HaKohen was involved in this whole situation. It was important for him to bring the golden calf, to bring a par, to bring a bull. The lechem matzis, v'chalas matzis, an unleavened bread, an unleavened loaves, belulas bashemen that are mixed with oil, rukike matzahs, and unleavened wafers. Torah calls a matzah. A matzah is like a wafer that we eat on Pesach. In the Beis Hamikdash, everything was matzah. It was different kinds of matzah. Many of them were lafa, more like lafa breads. Actually, some people till today make lafa bread. So Sfardim today make lafa bread from matzah. You have to know exactly how to make it, that they don't become chametz. They still stay unleavened. But we today, most people eat very thin matzah, very hard and thin matzah, not like lafa. They're extremely dry and more like a cracker. So the different kinds of unleavened bread. See, I see unleavened bread, unleavened loaves. And Ashi's going to soon say what it means. So I have 3 different kinds over here. Meshuchim b'shemen, they always had oil upon them. Soiles chitin, she'll make them out of fine white flour. Tassos. Rashi says these 3 types of matzah, scalded dough, loaves, and wafers, 3 different ways of making matzah. The unleavened bread is what is called further in the section loaf and oil bread, because Moshe would put as much oil into the scalding dough as in the loaves and the wafers. And of each type of the unleavened bread referred here, 10 loaves were brought. So the 3 ways of making this dough: 1 through hot water, 1 through baking, and 1 through frying. And you're going to learn all these things more when it comes to the menchais, to all the menchais, different kinds of matzahs that were brought in the Beis Hamikdash on a daily basis. But when a person didn't have money and he brought his carbon for flour instead of an animal. Belula b'shemen, when the bread was flour, Moshe would pour the oil on them and mix them. Meshuchim b'shemen, so belula b'shemen means that they begin with the flour was mixed with oil. Meshuchim b'shemen, What means anointed? After they were baked, Moshe would anoint them like a sort of a Greek chaf. He would put like a letter, like a Greek chaf, upon in the Hebrew alphabet, it's more like the letter nun. Letter nun, that it was put on the letter nun is like this letter. So that looks like a fish. That I don't know what a Greek chaf is, but that's the letter nun in Hebrew. And you shall place them upon a basket. You shall bring the basket, them in the basket, and the bull, and the two rams. So Rashi, where do you bring them? You bring them to the courtyard of the Mishkan. On the day it will be erected. And then you shall bring Aaron and his sons near the entrance of the tent of meeting. But you have to go to the mikveh. This is the concept of the mikveh. But when it says the Torah, does not mean taking a shower, but going to, in general, means going to the mikveh. As Rashi says, Zu tefillah, this is the immersion of entire body. And that's a mikveh. The responsibility of a mikveh is to totally be immersed in the water. The entire body. Verse number 5. Then you take the garments and you clothe Aaron the tunic first, and the robe of the ephod, and then you make sure to bind it with the sash, with the band of the ephod, the gartel. You shall adorn and affix the belt of the ephod around him to make sure that he's well tied up, so to say. It's well tight around him. Then you take the hat and you place it upon his head. And then you put the plate, you place his head upon his head, and then place the holy crown upon the cap. Because the Nezer HaKodesh, this is the show plate that was on his head. Alam Nefes, I explained above. The middle of the thread was of the show plate, and the two threads on his head. He had three threads coming out of that tzitz, and that went around his hat, and it was tied in the back, the nape of his neck. So that's why it's called a crown. Then you take anointing oil, and pour this oil on his head, and you shall anoint him. How do you anoint him? So Rashi says again, this is anointing was like a Greek chaf, like the letter nun. He, Moshe, would apply the oil to Aaron's head, between his eyebrows, and join them with his fingers. Then you bring the Aaron's sons and clothe them with the day you wore 4 garments. The main garments were the underpants that they wore, and then the tunic, the long white garment. And you make sure to put a gaitel around them. I don't know, they always have to wear a gaitel, sash, a gaitel, which we call today a gaitel. And make sure that they are wearing mugbois, high hats. And now they become a kohen forever. And he shall fill the hands of Aaron and his children. Because at this present time, only the children that were born from now on of these 4 sons would be kohanim. If they had children before, like Pinchas was already born to Aaron's son, and officially Pinchas was not a kohen. And that's why later Pinchas was given the kohuna. So Pinchas at this present time was born already, and therefore his father Eliezer was now crowned and anointed as a kohen. And Pinchas, who was born already, wouldn't be a kohen. He would be like his uncle Moshe Rabbeinu, would be a Levi. So I'm not sure exactly how many children they had already, but that's the law. That's the way the Torah was. So now only the children that come after now this situation are kohanim. This investure, this dedication of what they're going through is going to be they making them a kohen. Through these things, Aaron with the fulfillment of anointment for the kohen. Then they shall bring the bull in front of the tent of meeting. Aaron and his sons will lean their hands upon the bull. And then you're going to shech the bull. Before the Beis Hamikdash, from Pesach Hayom. Where did they shech? Where did they slaughter the bull? Mishkan, in the courtyard of the Mishkan. Before the door of the tent of meeting. Then you take from the blood of the pot of this bull. You put the blood on the corners of the altar. Remember, the altar had 4 corners. 4 horns, like if you remember the picture. 4 horns coming out on the top. So you put it on the corner, on the horns of the mizbeach with your finger. There's kol hadam, and the rest of the blood. Tushpuch al yisoid hamizbeach. You pour it on the base of the altar. If I can show you a picture again, so you'll know what he's talking about. So do you say this is important because you're going to hear it you read the Torah reading. The Yisrael Mizbeach was mentioned a lot in the Torah reading of the in the sacrificial offerings. Okay, so here's the picture. This was the Mizbeach, this was the thorns, and this was the aside. Okay, now it's they don't have a picture, but the aside of Mizbeach had so these are the thorns. That's what you make kindness of Mizbeach, and that's the aside. That's what you call the foundation. The blood, a lot of blood was spilled on the foundation of the Mizbeach, and there was a hole in it so that the blood went down into the ground. You're going to hear that a lot in the reading of the Torah. Yesod HaMizbeach, the foundation of Mizbeach. Look at how she says, Akar Mizbeach, on top, actually on the horns. Veskal Adan Shira, the remaining blood, a sort of producing replica was made all around the altar, which was elevated a cubit above the ground. So that's what I showed you. So that was the Mizbeach. There was a base. Yesod is a base. There was a base around the Mizbeach and came outside of the bottom of the Mizbeach, and that's its base. I'll show it to you again. That is the base. Then you take the fat covering the innards. I will show you a picture I don't have right now of what is this is certain chalev, certain fat in an animal is not kosher. It needs to only be brought on the mizbeach, on the altar. Certain fats that cover the innards, covered, and the diaphragm of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat which is on the kidneys, and you have to bring it on the mizbeach. So now she says, this is the membrane on the rumen, meaning on the first stomach, which is called telly in Old French. But she says, this is the membrane on the liver. ala koved, he must also take part of the liver along with it. So you have to know the anatomy of an animal. You can learn Hilchos Treifis, the laws of an animal, which parts of an animal, and the different parts of an animal. You have to know the anatomy of an animal. It's psara part, and then you take the flesh of the bull. Ves oira and its hide, ves pisha and its dung. Tisrei ba'esh, mechutz lamachna. The bull was not put on the mizbeach. Sorry, besides the fats and the fats of the kidneys and some of the liver, the rest of the bull was burnt outside the Beis Hamikdash, the chutz lamachna, outside the camp. Why chata sidus a sin offering? So Rashi says, we do not find any reference outside sin offering burnt except this one. So this is the only korban chatas, sin offering, that was burnt outside the Beis Hamikdash. This was a special ceremony that was only done when they anointed a kohen, or kohen gadol. So this was not a usual service in the Beis Hamikdash. Then you take one of the rams. And they take the Aaron and his sons, leave their hand on the ram's head. Then you slaughter the ram. You take its blood. This was not put on the corner. This was not put on the horns. This was sprinkled on the mizbeach. You got to get, Sadashi says, you see, and sprinkled with a vessel. Moshe grasped the sprinkling basin and sprinkled the blood opposite the horns of the altar, in order that the blood would be visible on both sides of the mizbeach. The only sacrifice involving the blood to be applied with a finger is a sin offering. The other sacrifice implies neither that the blood be sprinkled on the horn, nor that it applied with the finger. Because the application of their blood is on the lower half of the mizbeach. And the kohen would not ascend the ramp or the altar, but stand on the ground and sprinkle the blood on the lowest. Remember, the altar had like a gaitel, had like a surrounding design around the middle of the mizbeach. So they would sprinkle the blood on the bottom side of the mizbeach, right? So the mizbeach had this gaitel, this surrounding thing of copper. And the whole mizbeach was a copper. So they sprinkled the blood on the bottom side of the mizbeach, the lower side of the mizbeach. Now, how do they do that? So look at the next word, next Rashi. This is explained in the Gemara. When you say Keteris, you'll see it says in the Siddur, Shtei matanis shehin arba. 2 givings that were 4. And how do you did that? The Kohen stood on one corner, did a shot of blood. It went on both sides automatically. So he did one shot that hit 2 corners. Went to the other side of his back, threw another shot in the corner, hit 2 corners. So it was 2 shots that were 4 corners. So ultimately, the 2 shots hit 4 corners. And that's the way you do it. So that's, he says, it actually 4, one up on the corner, one on the diagonally opposite the corner. Each application was visible on both sides of the corner. Thus, the blood was applied in 4 directions all around. Therefore, sprinkling with the blood was called saviv. There was blood on all 4 walls of the mizbeach, but it was only 2 shots. He's only sprinkled twice. One on one corner that hit 2 sides, and one on the other corner hit 2 sides. Until the tachav, then you have to take the ayah, and you have to cut it into parts. But a chatzta, it's kirba, you have to clean out of innards, take away all this garbage that he had inside the animal, and put them with the parts of the head. Al tachav means with its parts in addition to the rest of its parts. And then you had to take you took out the innards of the animal and you put it on top of the animal. And you brought the entire animal on the mizbeach. That was an oila. An oila, that's the law of an oila. An oila was brought entirely on the mizbeach. Oila hu Hashem reach nechayach. This is the first time that we have this expression, the concept of reach nechayach. That the Eibusha says, God says that a sacrifice is I smell a reach nechayach. It is a spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering for the Lord. That's the here Rashi says, what means a reich nechayach LaHashem? What does that mean? Lachasruach lefane. It's a satisfaction to me. Shamarti v'nasir that I asked for you and you did it. And the simple meaning is that maybe you're not so comfortable with this. Jews are not so comfortable with sacrificial offerings, maybe. But I asked, and it was done. And that's what the Eibush has a nachas ruach in general. The Eibush has a nachas ruach, not only things that you enjoy, but things that you do because I ask you to do. Ishay, Rashi says, Ishay, a fire offering. The word is related to the word Ish, Isha. Actually, it can be Ishay. That's the way it's written, Isha. It's also the word Isha, a woman. This is the meaning of the burning of the limbs that are on the fire. And that completes the Chumash of today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. We are now starting chapter 28 of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe explained to us that we should never feel sorry for challenges of life, challenges of thought in one's life. He should actually be satisfied that the Eibishter gave him challenges in life. What happens, the Alter Rebbe now goes and explains a difficult situation, because a person can have evil thoughts during his work. What happens if his evil thoughts come to him in the middle of the service of God? I mean, in essence, that can show that he's really a bad person. He's sitting in shul, and he's having these machshavas zaras. He's having these evil thoughts, immoral thoughts in shul. When he's learning, he's having these evil. That really shows that he's a bad guy. I mean, it might get depressed. You know, look at a bad person I am, that I have evil thoughts even when I'm going to be servicing God. Even if lustful, imagines things. He has a imagery in his mind of lustful things. And any other evil thought. B'shas havoda, when he's doing the service of Torah, his middle learning. Or b'tefillah, b'kavana, he's trying to have tefillah with concentration. When he's having these thinking about who knows what. Al yashes leiv aleim. Don't put too much into it. But avert your mind from them immediately. Hang up. That was the lesson. You need to go away. You cannot fight with this machshava. That's what Alter Rebbe is. You're going to fight with your machshava. You're a shaita. You're a fool. If you think you're going to overcome this machshava by fighting with it, by trying to challenge it, by trying to overcome it, you're stupid. Don't be foolish. To sublimate the midas of the extreme thought. Kenoida is known. You cannot do that. Don't be ridiculous. Even though it's possible, but not now. Now it's not possible. And not only now it's not possible, to change your midas is only a tzaddik can change his character. You understand? So to become an unlustful person, only a tzaddik can change his character or his desires. And you or I am not a tzaddik. So if you think that you're going to become this unlustful person, you're fooling yourself. That's very, very thing. That's when the Alter Rebbe said the biggest problem. People think that they don't respect who they are, and they don't realize you're not a tzaddik, and therefore you're always going to have lustful thoughts. That's it. That's what your character. Whether it's lustful, whether it's evil, I'm not whatever a person has. You're going to have always these negative thoughts are always going to come to your life. The concept of overcoming and changing, that's only righteous people. That they don't have any evil thoughts. Maybe they have other people tell them things, but they themselves, they're pure people. That's why it was very difficult for a tzaddik to sit and listen to another person's sins, because he doesn't understand how it's possible to sin. So imagine a Rebbe has a meeting with a chassid, and the chassid tells him the sins that he's doing. The tzaddik is like, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about. And therefore, it's a very difficult thing for the tzaddik to find in himself. He hears this avera, and now he has to figure out, how do you find it within yourself, such a thing? Right? So since a tzaddik has transformed his midas of his animal soul to good, no evil thought can arise from them. Any evil thought that may arise in his mind stems from the midas of others. For another individual whose soul is rooted and connected with this tzaddik finds himself in a difficult combating his own evil midas and requires his assistance. And that's why the simple person goes to the tzaddik and tells him his troubles. The tzaddik, he doesn't have such kind of troubles. And that's the greatness of a tzaddik, that a tzaddik sits and listens to these kind of troubles. This person's evil thoughts is therefore planted in the middle of the tzaddik, though in the form of merely abstract letters of thoughts, without any feeling of evil attached to it. The tzaddik recognizes the source of this thought, redirects it towards the spiritual, and that's the greatness of the tzaddik. So the tzaddik has the capability to take somebody else's thought and how to direct the other person's thought, to change it, to help him change his thought. So the question is, but if a Beinoni, when his evil thoughts are his own thoughts, why does he have evil thoughts? Because that's who he is. He's a person that has a capability of evil. And therefore, he has evil thoughts. How is it possible for him to go above when he is bounded below? How can he raise himself up to a spiritual realm when he himself is bounded below by the desires of the material world? And that's the reality. So that's a good question. And so it will really be stupid, foolish, as I say, it would be therefore be foolish for a Beinoni to attempt to rid himself of extraneous thoughts by engaging in sublimation of his midas. It's not possible. So therefore, don't do something that is not possible. That is impossible. You know what he can do? That's what he can do. He can stop thinking. That's what he can do. He can stop thinking this thing. That's one thing that the Yetzer Hara has no power over you. The Yetzer Hara is always going to be part of me. I'm not a tzaddik, and therefore I'll never vanquish this Yetzer Hara. I don't have to think about it. I don't give the Yetzer Hara thought. The Yetzer Hara has no power. The Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination, only has power in my thought if I give him space. I give him thought. I give him power over my thought. He has power. I take away the thought. He has no power. So now automatically he's knocked out because I don't give him space. I don't give my Yetzer Hara space. Again, remember we learned at the beginning of Tanya that the positive and negative are both fighting for space. They're both fighting for my thought. I don't need to give him the thought. I don't give him the power. That doesn't mean that he's not there. He just wants the time. He wants the vessel. He wants the thought, right? We learned in the beginning of Tanya that the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Hara are both fighting over the Levushim. They want to garment themselves with me. I gotta let him. I gotta give him the garment. If I don't give him the garment of thought, he doesn't have it. So that's my free choice. I can give him the time, or I don't give him the time. And that's why it's a continuous battle, because I should never, ever give my Yetzer Hara my thought. And if he does get it for a moment, I should just go think of something else. Not fight with it, explain, oh, it's not the right time. It's not a good thought. Oh, what are you doing? No, that's not going to work. You got to start thinking something else. Nevertheless, you should never come downhearted, nor feel dejected and despicable. Oh, look at him. That means, in essence, I'm a bad person. If you're telling me that I can't change my evil condition, in essence, telling me I'm a bad guy. No, you're not a bad guy. As long as you don't think of it, you're not a bad guy. So therefore, right now, because if you don't think about it, you don't have the Yetzer Hara has no power. So you have the capacity of evil, but not that you have evil. You have the capability, you have the potential. Don't give the potential any kind of capability to come into reality. He doesn't have the potential; stays dormant. The same way goes with good. I can have good if I don't give the good the capability, the garments to use it. Then it also stays dormant. So it goes both ways. So over here it's important, this concept that I'm talking about evil. So if it comes a time of Avodah, I'm doing the service of God, and now I have an evil thought. I should talk about time of service. I'm supposed to be joyful. So how am I going to be sad in the time of davening, in the time of learning? That's the time I have to be happy. On the contrary, he should draw fresh strength and intensify his determination with all his power to pray with concentration, even with greater joy and galatas. Because he'll realize why suddenly is he to have an evil thought. When he'll realize that the foreign thought which occurs to him, where is it coming from? It's coming from Klippa Shebechol Asmali. It's coming from the covering that's in his left side of his heart, that wants to go out to war with him when he's davening and when he's learning. In Nefesh Elokis, right? They're both fighting over your thought. Your godly soul wants your thought. Your middle davening, your middle learning. What does your God say? He wants your thought. He wants your concentration. He wants your focus. And then Yetzer Hara says, no, I want your focus. So when you're in, that's the battle. That's why the Alter Rebbe says, the biggest battle by a Jew is when he's davening. When he's in prayer is the biggest battle by a Jew. He can be focused in any other thing. Suddenly, when it comes to praying, he suddenly loses his focus. He's thinking about everything else. Why? Why suddenly now? You're busy. You're in a rush. You're looking at your time. You're this. When it comes to davening and learning, suddenly, Because that's when your Yetzer Hara is saying, oh, I don't want you to be focused in the godly. I want you to be focused on something else. The Mechama starts, the war starts. So when the war starts, why are you depressed? The war starts now you have to be besimcha, because that's the way you're going to win. So now you'd say, wow, I'm in a war. I'm going to overcome it. And that's a great thing. I'm not going to let my Yetzer Hara clothe itself in my thought. I'm going to make sure to only close my Yetzer Tov in my thought. As I said before, it's known by every way of combatants who seek to destroy another, and similarly to wrestle, whose aim is merely to topple one another. When one gains the upper hand, and the other likewise exerts himself with all the resources of his strength in order to prevail. So therefore, in a regular person like us, we're not a Beinoni even. We're trying to be a Beinoni. We're not tzaddikim. So when we come to daven, we come to pray, and we come to learn, that's when your Yetzer Hara says, I'm not going to allow this. I'm not going to allow this. So the klippa stands up and says, oh no, I'm not going to allow this. I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to topple this guy. I'm going to make sure that he doesn't have any concentration. I'm going to make sure the phone rings. I'm going to make sure this person's going to bother him, that person. I'm going to make sure any way to take away his concentration. This is the beautiful thing the Alter Rebbe says. So therefore, where there's more challenge, shows in the power of your prayer. It shows how important your davening is. It shows how important your learning is. Where there's a challenge, shows the importance. Or really to a Beinoni, to a middle person. Where there's a challenge, shows the importance. That's a general rule you should know. The mitzvah you don't want to do is the mitzvah that's important to me. The mitzvah I struggle with is the mitzvah that's important that I need to overcome. So if I struggle with prayer, it might be that's the mitzvah I need to overcome. If I struggle with learning, that's the mitzvah I need to overcome. Because that's, if I struggle, it shows my animalistic soul is struggling with me. If I don't struggle, it means my animal soul has given up. So there's no struggle anymore. So I've done it. I won the battle. And I need to go to the next battle. This is important. This refutes common error. That say that if you can have an evil thought, you're finished. If you can have an evil thought, you can think evil in the middle of davening, it means your prayers is nothing. You're just an evil person. Finished. You're just a bad person. Your davening is not worth anything. How can you have evil thoughts in your davening? It shows that you're not a good person. It shows you have no kavanah. It shows that your prayers are not worth anything. Because if you would pray correctly, you wouldn't have any evil thoughts. So you see that your prayer is not worth anything. You're just a worthless person. So the Alter Rebbe says, you know what? If you had a one soul situation, that might be true. If we had one soul, and that soul is evil, we're in trouble. We're in trouble if we have one soul. If you believe in one soul, and your soul has machshavas zaris, has evil thoughts and evil tendencies, and is basically a bum, you got a problem. But we have two souls. We believe in two soul system. You have a godly soul and an animalistic soul. Your godly soul is always pure. That means you are really always pure. That means you are really always godly. Your animalistic soul is always from the outside. That's why I said, that's what one of the lessons is. Your thought is not you. And that's an important thing. They would be correct if you only had one soul. The same soul that prays is the same soul that has evil thoughts. If you had one soul and the same soul that prays is the same soul that has evil thoughts, you would have a problem. That would be a terrible situation. Because in essence, that means that soul's contaminated. Oy vey, how can I now elevate myself when my soul is contaminated? So in this case, if the godly soul were truly immersed in prayer, there'll be no room within it for foreign thoughts, right? And that you have evil thoughts, that means your godly soul is not a good soul. And your godly soul is evil, God forbid. That's if you believe in one soul. But that's not the truth. We have two souls. We have a godly soul and we have an animalistic soul. They're both fighting over the thought. If the animalistic soul wins, then the godly soul is just pushed out. He doesn't become impure. The godly soul is just pushed out of the thought. It's like a garment. Who is wearing the garment? If the animalistic soul is wearing that's why machshava is called a garment. Is the soul or machshava dibur ma'aser, thought, speech, and action? Is the godly soul wearing the garment of thought? Then he's wearing the garment of thought. If the animalistic soul is wearing the garment, and the animalistic soul is just pushed away, again, the animalistic soul is not changed. You just pushed him out of the garment. If the animalistic soul is in the garment, now the godly soul is pushed out of the garment. But not that the godly soul has become impure. He's just out of the garment. He's not driving the car. Who has a choice who to drive? So first of all, each wishes and desires that pervades mind should be exclusively his. So the godly soul says, I want the mind. I want the vessel of the mind. Give me your mind. Give me the garment. Why are you giving it to somebody else? Give it to me. And therefore, if you're going to give me your mind, all your thoughts will be godly. And all the worldly matters will be for, you know what? Give me your mind. So similarly in our case, thought of prayer are from the divine soul, while foreign thoughts stem from the animal soul. Thus, the occurrence of foreign thoughts during prayer is so indication of a fault in the prayer. There's no indication of fault in the prayer. In fact, the opposite may be true. As the Alter Rebbe explains earlier, the analogy of two combatants. It actually shows you the importance of the prayer. It shows you that your animalistic soul said, "Well, I'm afraid of this prayer. I'm afraid that you're going to become too godly. I'm afraid you're going to forget about that materialism. So I'm afraid of this prayer. Let's try to think of something else. Let's not be focused." And that's the war. So this is let's not be focused. But if there were indeed two separate souls, why should we extend his thoughts, one interfere with the devotion of the other? They would not interfere. They would not interfere. The answer is out except the godly soul is clothed within the animal soul. Therefore, the godly soul cannot ignore the foreign thoughts rising from the animal soul. and thus the foreign thoughts disturb one's devotion in tefillah. That's why, since the animal, the godly soul, is enclosed in the body, so the animal soul realizes that the godly soul realizes that the animal soul is there. What does he do with it? How does he wants to now daven? And now, how do you deal with with davening with a body which has an animal soul? It's right there. So how do you have to look at it? How do you deal with this? You know the truth. I'm davening with my godly soul. My animal soul is right here. I didn't become godly because I'm davening with my godly soul. The animal soul sitting right there. So what am I supposed to do? Make believe I don't have an animal soul? No. This is what the Untitled says. You have to look at it as if the Lord in halacha, if somebody's davening with kavanah, and is sitting next to him an adel, a wicked heathen, is sitting next to him, and is speaking to him. I have this guy sitting next to me, and he's bothering me. He's talking to me. What do you do? What do you do in halacha? You're sitting in davening, and I have this guy sitting next to me. Adel guy. It's a wicked guy, not a nice guy, a wicked guy. He's sitting next to me, and he's bothering me. He's talking to me. What do I do? If others' intentions were not to disturb him, but merely to ask him a question, then he could rid himself of the disturbers simply responding to the questioner. But when the intention is to disturb his prayer, not the question, he will gain nothing by responding. If he answers one question, or prompt another question. So what do you do with a person that's bothering you while you want to daven? So the best way is not to respond. Don't answer him to good or to evil. They act as if you're not him. And to comply with the verse, al tan kesil v'ivaltei pen tishva gam le'ata. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you become like him. That's why I said the best thing is to hang up. You're gonna involve yourself with an evil person, a person that wants to disturb you. Hang up, ignore. So when you're having this is your inner turmoil. We're not talking about somebody next to you. Your inner turmoil. How do you respond to your animalistic soul? Ignore him. Think of something else. So too, the analogy of the heathen who disturbs one during prayer, so too when foreign thoughts enter one's mind while prayer, you should answer nothing at all. Nor should he engage in argument against his evil thoughts. This is very important. Don't get involved and argue with yourself. Why? Because the Gemara says, one who wrestles with a filthy person is bound to become soiled himself. I shouldn't think my Yetzer Hara is so stupid. He wants to get me involved in the argument. He wants to get me involved in the struggle because he knows the more I struggle, the more I will get wounded. What should he do? He should pretend that he did not know, did not hear foreign thoughts. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no foreign thoughts. He should move him out of his mind. Stop thinking. That's it. Yosef and strengthen more the power of his concentration. Easier said than done. And as the Alter Rebbe continues, if it will be hard for him to get him out of his mind, they should trade him because they're strong distractions. Then he shall humble his soul before God. And he should beg by the Eibishter b'machshavta, with all in his mind. God should have compassion upon him to help him. Like God has rachmanis on, like a father has rachmanis on his children. We all are neshachim b'meich. We all come from God's mind. So we know the Eibishter knows that the weakness of our mind. We don't have the power to control our mind. This is really what that's the point. That we don't have the control over our mind. Maybe God will have mercy on his soul. Which comes from the Eibishter. Our soul comes from God. To rescue us from the turbulent waters. What is the real turbulent waters? Thoughts which disturb the soul. That's the real turbulent waters. Turbulent waters are in my mind. Lamana Yaseh. And this should be done. Lamana Yaseh. I'm asking not for myself. I'm begging God for his own sake. Please help me overcome my thoughts. Hashem mamish amay. See, the Alter Rebbe puts the word mamish. We are a part of God, mamish amay, his nation. This he should do for his own sake, since sincerely his people are part of God. So look at the connectivity in order that one should not incur divine judgment as to whatever he is worthy of God's compassion. The Alter Rebbe advises that one should beseech God's mercies for his own sake. Since the soul of God is a part of God in the aiding of the soul, he actually helps himself, so to speak. Question of whatever one is deserving of such aid thus becomes irrelevant, because it's not about me, it's about God. So I might not be deserving, but my godly soul, which is a part of God, is surely deserving. Another interpretation sees the words that he should do for his own sake, not as a part of the worshipper's plea, but as a guarantee. God will certainly come to the aid of one who entreats him, and certainly will rescue his soul from the turbulent waters for his own sake, for the soul is virtually a part of God. Very powerful Tanya today. Something we need to learn in depth. But that completes the Tanya of the day. Today is the 8th day of the month, which is chapter 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48. So if you do those 5 chapters, you are done the chitas of the day. I want to wish you all a wonderful day, a happy and healthy day. And in Midshem, we'll see you all tomorrow when we'll continue the chitas of the day.